call this. Right, we'll start where we are and we'll go on here. Obviously, overnight, the big word overnight has been. I'll just turn down the squawk that I've got here. Well, it's quite interesting. Right, we'll go again. Start again. Right, again, the big word overnight. We saw the big change yesterday. It's the word inflation. We haven't heard that for a while, but obviously overnight we've had the Chinese PPI that rose quite significantly, and obviously the word was going last week of the infrastructure and the lack of semiconductors and chip shortages are on the way. Obviously, the rise in iron ore yesterday in the markets to an all-time high will have to be passed on to the retail traders. So obviously, inflation's hit the day. We saw that yesterday. There was a massive weird move yesterday. Those who were trading at 230, in that we saw the Nasdaq come off 1.5% and the Wall Street rally. That didn't last very long. Towards the end of the evening, obviously Wall Street came off from its highs above 35,000, and we're now fairly a decent size below that. Why inflation? It is the ugly word, and it hasn't gone away. And despite what central banks are saying that they're happy to keep inflation around 2%, the market has turned turtle and has gone the other way. Right, we'll quickly go on to what we've got this morning. 9 o'clock, we've got hang on, there's a few more people to allow in here. 9 o'clock, we've got Italian industrial production. 10 o'clock, German zoo. 3:30 with Bank of England Bailey. Obviously, he'll be interesting because he speaks 3 times this week. And obviously, the rally in the pound yesterday, for obvious reasons, we'll go back to that. He'll be mentioning USA 3 o'clock with the JOLTS figure out, which obviously be important after non-farm payrolls, dismal performance of 266,000. And then at 3:30, Williams, 5 o'clock, Brainard, and 8 o'clock daily. All of those are Uber doves. So they're obviously, we'll talk about non-tapering and everything else. What we just seen, obviously, this morning, we had a very weak German figure out at 7 o'clock, which moved the market down. And since we've seen it, where we are on the DAX, rally back up here, basically on the back of Visselroy coming up, said any talk of tapering is short-lived and put it basically in. Since then, the DAX has rallied 30, 40 ticks. So we do expect a decent move. Obviously, at 8 o'clock, I'll be doing the DAX. George, you can do the FTSE?
Yeah, I've got FTSE.
You can do the FTSE. We go for there. Again, going through it quickly, the inflation expectations jumped to a 10-year high of 2.73%, despite the policy members playing down inflation, reaching the AIT. Remember, the Fed's AIT is the average inflation target of 2%. We've gone through the Chinese PMI has been higher. The Nikkei came off 3% this morning, basically on the inflation worries and negative sentiments. Therefore, tomorrow's figure, those of you aware of it, we have, I think, the second to third week every month in the US with the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and the PPI, Producer Price Index, always 2 days apart. They are the inflationary figures as such. The higher figure, therefore, deemed to be inflationary. It's worse for indices and obviously better for the dollar. What we had yesterday quickly in the evening with Daly, who came out, big Fed person, who's obviously speaking again today. He said there's no time to talk about tapering QE, which was obviously good for the market. Followed by half hour later, Mr. Kaplan, who is obviously the Uber hawk, has moved to market. He said it's healthy to start to talk about tapering sooner rather than later. There we are. We see the confusion market go on already. Schneibel, the ECB, came out and said German inflation may get to above 3%. Yeah. The other thing was to bear in mind 2 things. In Israel, obviously, the Hamas and rockets of the famous Jerusalem mosque is going about, and the amount of people that come in there. Therefore, if that is a worry coming in there, and the only reason I say that is because Mr. Biden's in power now, and we have 2 things that we have to be worried about Mr. Biden is A, the spat with Israel, because he'll probably take Israel's side, and B, on this colonial pipeline thing that obviously the intervention of the colonial pipeline ransomware, obviously they're blaming Russia and obviously Putin. We are fairly wary that Biden did call Putin a killer a few years back, and his feelings with Russia and the Cold War have not gone away. So watch the space here that goes on there. Finally, the World Health Organization classified the triple mutant COVID variant from India as a danger. So again, those of you who can remember when the WHO turned around and finally said the world is a pandemic, what happened to the markets? Be aware of that. I think part of the sell-off in the markets today has been that, not just inflation, but maybe 2 or 3 catalysts that have taken every single indice into the minus. Those of you who are very much into cryptocurrencies, I think everyone, including my mother and dog, everyone else now is a cryptocurrency trader and wants to see everything. But quickly looking at cryptocurrencies on the shared screen, if we go up there, fairly indifferent from where we're moving, yeah, and fairly vast changes. Right, George, you're going to go onto the FTSE. I'm going to do the DAX, and we do expect, in fairness, for what's come out this morning already from 7 o'clock, we've already had almost a 70 tick range in the DAX. So therefore, we do expect a slightly busier opening than we had yesterday as such. So FTSE-wise, the only thing out was the pound. We talked about that yesterday, and that basically was because Boris Johnson came out and leaked it in the newspapers that we were going from a level 4 to level 3. The pound had its best day for many a month. 150 ticks. In theory, that's what held the FTSE down yesterday. Those who remember, higher pound normally means the FTSE suffered a bit. The other thing that's come out is obviously the Queen's speech comes out this week. Rumours that Boris Johnson may use it to announce a re-election or something along those talks, which also in the current climate of Labour winning no seats whatsoever or very few seats in the local elections last week, probably puts Conservatives in charge. So we're going to the DAX again. Profits in the DAX from a scalping point of view, we're looking at probably 40 to 50 ticks. Trying to be as neutral as we can. Stops maybe 15 to 20 tight stops, and obviously George is going to keep us involved in the FTSE. I think someone's whacked up on the discussion group where he's got the FTSE as support level at where is it 7040. I think we're a bit further away from that at the moment on the cash, but bear that in mind as well. No news out at the time, but remember 2 things that come out. We have one weak German figure, wholesale prices that sent the market down at 1.1 against 1.7, and then of course we had Viceroy taping of PEPP, purely speculative, and interest rates remain very favourable at present towards the economic activity. Right. We try and be as neutral as possible as we come in there. Those who weren't yesterday obviously got caught out in Wall Street when Wall Street rallied and Nasdaq dumps. In a way, we don't have to look at too many bonds at the moment. We have to wait for that for the Wall Street figure at 230. But I'm going to look at DAX coming in here, and obviously we have seen the market in the last hour rally 42 to 50 ticks, basically on one person speaking. Those of you on the open as such, looking at your levels where you want in the FTSE DAX, fine. But I think a few people, I suppose on the DAX up here, are a bit further away from the big resistance at 153.58. We're down here somewhat. I think we might come and test the POC in the DAX, which is right down at what we say 152.02, right the way down here. I think there might be a bit of selling coming in here, basically for what we just said on the news that's come out, obviously. In Asia as well. You can see the DAX, just market orders here coming in both ways. There's been a prices in both ways. It hasn't reacted to me to trade yet. We want to see a reaction one way or the other.
FTSE's selling, DAX is rallying, isn't it?
Yep, that's what we're seeing at the moment. Still early, coming at 20, 30 seconds. Maybe people have seen Viceroy's comments as fairly good.
I know. I bought FTSE.
You bought FTSE on that?
Yeah.
I've got small in on the no, nothing quite going on the DAX yet. I'm just waiting for a bit more confirmation to come in here.
I'll get stopped there.
See some clean, not clean. The DAX is rallying from where we were. from 4 o'clock. I haven't bought it to be saying I haven't sold it, but I'm trying to look at a level where we can come in here. But definitely from 8 o'clock, we've seen a 20-tick move in the DAX. In theory, I probably missed the early buy here, so I wouldn't say I was sucking into buying it, but 20, 30 ticks.
No, is it?
Yeah. So in the FTSE, have any joined the FTSE, George?
No, not enjoying it today.
Well, no,
Yeah. Can't always buy it.
As we said before, as such, a no trade, yeah, on that news as such. I'm a bit bearish with DAX, to be honest. So that stopped me from buying it, because I think on a scalp I was probably looking for more than 20 ticks, and I think in theory there's only 20 ticks there. I think to me, if we do break the DAX round about here, 52.36, then I will go short. Yeah. So again, there was a scalp on the DAX there, but only 20 ticks. In theory, there is no reason at the moment to be short DAX. So we'll wait and see and come in. But the day is still very early. Remember, we have Zoo out at 10 o'clock. That's a big figure day. Those of you who are being slightly wary of the DAX, it sometimes opens, the figures sometimes 5 minutes late.
FTSE's gone through its POC as well.
What, south?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm very bearish at the moment, so I'm going to wait and see. But again, I'm going to wait to sell the DAX if it breaks this 52, 40, 36 level. Yeah, in theory, we'll be on the DAX, although the FTSE's broken its POC, and you go in there. I'm going to wait the DAX to break this level, and then I'm going to go short. In a way, that's probably why I haven't gone long, because I didn't really believe in it. However, that's the thing, your price action, you wait. I'm not short, even though I am bearish, that would be a trade, but I'm going to use the charts and my market profile to tell me where we get into. Again, what did we say? 52, 38, 40. The value high, obviously, in the DAX now, if we look to the right, has moved. They've got the POC now at 50, which would be interesting. I already had it before around about 38, 40. But since it started to change. So if it does break that like yesterday, well, I do think that's where people put the stops. He's got it at 50. I've really got it at 38, 40, and we'll go from there. Okay, then we'll come back later. Fairly quiet on the opening there. A bit choppy both ways. To me, it was a no trade, but we'll come back to that. Any other stuff, we'll use a discussion group to go through. Those of you who we've got the Zooms one-to-ones with, we'll come back and we'll see you then. But again, probably Zoo the first time to trade. And again, those of you who are aware of the misconception of Wall Street yesterday with NASDAQ, was it Wall Street was up 300, NASDAQ was down 150, caught a lot of people out because S&Ps were off as well, NASDAQ was off as well. And I think that spread had its widest move for probably about 2-3 months. Right, I can finally take this hat off, even though George might dare me to wear it for the rest of the day. But then again, it might spoil my curls. Right, have a good morning, and I'll speak to you later in the day.
Cheers.
Cheers.